Hey, have you ever wondered, how can I set up this meeting for success? Or what do I need to do to facilitate a meeting? Or what happens in a meeting when things aren't set up and we can't get to where we're supposed to be and it's just a waste of time? I'm here for you. My name is Dr. Kortney Peagram, and I do all things facilitation, training, executive coaching. Now, that's all people skills. That's my background. That's my degree. I'm a business psychologist that teaches you how to do the things. Okay, how to facilitate or run a meeting, right? Just run a meeting. Facilitation is more extensive skills, but like, how do you prep, set yourself up, and like actually get things done that you're supposed to do in a meeting? There are a few things. So I'm going to be Captain Obvious for a second, but just in case people don't know, because if you're watching this video, you're looking for tips, or even me this year, I'd forgotten about like the meeting invitations on blocking other people's calendar. And it was just like a habit I had gone out of. So when I heard about that again, it's like, oh yeah, so sometimes we just need reminders. Because if we're in like a meeting like storm where it's constant meetings, or we're overly scheduled for meetings, and then we're running a lot of meetings, things don't come like, it's just like a habitual thing, and so just get over it versus planning for successful outcomes. Now, here's what you're going to do. First, you're going to figure out, why are you having this meeting? So you're going to have a meeting with yourself, and you're going to say, okay, what is the purpose of this? Who needs to be at the table? How can I get the most out of this? And after this meeting, what will it like? So what are the steps? So like, a meeting is designed, when you think about it, to have a discussion and make decisions to move, let's say, I'll just say corporate jargon, the needle forward. If you're doing initiative committee, maybe it's a performance review, maybe it's about a project. The reason that we're talking is because we have to address certain things, come to a decision, and be able to agree on action items to continue working together. Now, if it's a performance review, that's a little different, but still, it's the need to communicate what's going on. So what's going on, so what do we want to start doing, stop doing, continue doing, right? So that's what's critical to understand. The meeting is, the purpose is not just to like have a conversation, right? It could be a check-in, but there needs to be a goal. Even a check-in, like, hey, I want to know how you're doing, where you're at, status updates on projects, right? That's a goal. So each meeting needs to have a goal, and you need to know, when are you having it, who's going to be there, which platform. So let's start back to basics. First thing you're going to do is you're going to look at your calendar. So you might use Google, Teams, Outlook, whatever your heart desires. Each workplace should have a certain platform where you can see people's calendars, or if you don't have access to their calendars, you can send meeting invites. So in Google, you would open it up, you would set the meeting. So same for, let's say, Outlook. And they're going to give the title. Now, I know sometimes people just want to be a little creative with their titles, and I do too. So the problem is, if we don't know exactly why we're meeting, people might decline. Additionally, if the title is too creative, then there's really difficult to understand, like, why are we coming together? Why should I be here? So you want to make clear, concise titles. So it could be Q4, too concise. Like, what are we talking about in Q4? Is it about the finances? Is it about any compliance issues, right? Crystal clear. So it could be project review and updates regarding phase 1, right? So that's a lot of jargon, but at least people who are in it know what it is about. It could be performance reviews and, goal setting. It could be brainstorming session, but not just the brainstorming session, about what is really important. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to invite people. So you want to make sure that you invite the stakeholders, the people that need to make the decisions, and any person that would add value or insight in the meeting. Not just, well, I think they should come because, Carol from accounting discussed the other day about something that's going on with HR and marketing. If Carol's a supportive person and it would add value to have her listen in the meeting, put her as optional. Carol, unless Carol needs to make a decision in that meeting, she can be optional. And then she gets to choose if she should show up at the meeting. So then it's on her if this is a waste of time or it's meant for her to gain information. Now, giving people the supportive roles, or maybe like the second key decision makers, they can be optional. And so I did this, like, it was last year. I was meeting with 2 leaders. I was doing executive coaching. And so I would do one-on-one sessions and group sessions with them weekly. We were dealing with a really tight deadline for strategic it was a culture reset. So strategic goals, and then moving the needle forward on certain items to get them set up for success as they were onboarding new people, and there was a lot of structural change. So long story long, I had to set meetings with them, and I didn't want them to think that I'm meeting about the other one or there's issues, or so I always made it optional for one leader to attend the other ones on one, but it was meant for me and that person, and they had access to the agenda to see like, oh, I need to stop in and talk about this because this relates to my team, blah, blah, blah. So this is to say that when you think of optional, it's you're not like, you're keeping it open, right? You're not making it like a cliquey meeting or like like a who's who, like no ego here. What you're doing is you're saying you need to come to this meeting because we need your decision to move forward, and you might add insight or value, or you might have questions, so you're optional. Why am I reiterating this? Because I hear it too many times from my clients. I am in so many meetings, I don't even know why I'm there. Whew. So now they have the power of choice, which actually will increase your engagement. Next, you want to do in your meeting, so like if your meeting, you say it's going to take 45 minutes, I know people like to hear this. I might add it to an hour, because you know what people love? Getting out of a meeting early. Do you know what people hate? Staying in a meeting past that minute that it was supposed to be done. I mean, they're closing their laptops, they're on their phones, they are disengaged. They are like, eye in the door, eye in the exit, okay? So that's why it's critical to have that buffer time on your schedule. If you think it's going to take you 30 minutes, put it at 45. If you think it's going to be 45, do an hour. I mean, you will be like a winner if you get everyone out on time or even earlier. So the buffer time is critical, and that as a facilitator, I really recommend so that you don't go over. Because one thing that people hate is going over meetings, because typically they have back-to-back and now they're late for the next one, and it screws up their day. And I also find that very disrespectful if meetings are running over, because you're like, okay, meeting done, see ya. Go to your regular day. But maybe Larry, Vanessa, Rebecca, they had to stay and listen, and maybe they didn't even know why they were there. Now they're upset, frustrated, resentful. They're going to their other meeting. So let's say Rebecca leaves my meeting, and I was just like lollygagging, just talking about life, and she's like, why am I here? Okay. She's very frustrated with me. And she needs to go into performance review, let's say with Eric. So she's late for the review for Eric, and Eric's her boss, so she's a little stressed out. And Eric doesn't even know that we're having this meeting because he didn't look at her calendar. Now he's wondering, where is Rebecca? Like, this is not good for her review. Like, this is a very important meeting. And she didn't know how to tell me, I gotta go. Or because she could have been a new employee. She could have, I might have authority, or a higher role than her. Regardless, you're seeing this picture, right? So now Rebecca's going to walk into the meeting with Eric, and she's going to be stressed out. She might be frustrated. So anything that Eric says, she's still mad at me, but might be projecting it onto her boss or the situation and have a different emotional reaction than, if I ended my meeting on time. I know that was really long to explain, but what I'm talking about is when we're running our meetings over, we're deregulating other employees. And that is not fair to them. So let's be respectful and end our meetings on time. Now, okay, next. Your meeting's set, you got that buffer, you were like, okay, beautiful. What do we need to do? You need to say, so you don't need to do this, but it's really helpful. I usually set my meetings as soon as I get them. So say I don't know, Carrie reaches out and she's like, hey, let's set a meeting, brainstorming session, 1 p.m. Friday. I'm like, thank you, sending you meeting invite. I do it right away so I don't forget. And I can set it out. I don't even have to put a task on my list. It's done. I'm in my email, super easy. I set the meeting. And then in that description part, I say, agenda to follow. That's it, okay? Make sure the link's there, time, she's invited, anyone else, okay, boom, send. Now, why do I say agenda to follow? So it clicks on my brain, I need to develop an agenda. Secondly, it lets the other people know that there's something to come, there's documentation. Now, let's say we're meeting Friday, now it's Wednesday, so tomorrow I'll create a one-page agenda of what my desired outcomes for this brainstorming session would be in our meeting. It needs to be one page. Agendas are not novels. They are not workbooks. They're one-page documents, okay, maybe 2 at the most, even a strategic meeting. When I facilitate strategic meetings, we can still keep it at 1 to 2 pagers, these big meetings, because if there's too much in the detail, people aren't looking at it. Now, you could have additional reports or memos that are attached to the agenda, but an agenda should just be an outline of what's going to happen, okay? Like, hey, here's the blueprint of what we're doing today, right? You don't need to have all the details because we get lost in details. Now, that agenda is a one-page, 24 hours prior, unless it's extremely important information, there needs to be additional documentation or pre-work. I always do the agenda 24 hours before. Now, if there's pre-work, I do 48 or 72 hours because honestly, anything before that, it gets lost in the shuffle. Most people get between 50, if you're lucky, to 250 emails a day. That is a lot to manage, and on top, figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing in a meeting. That's why one-stop shop, put it in the meeting invitation, the one-page agenda. Now, when you update it, it will automatically, and make sure it does though, send an update, okay, like 24 hours prior for the agenda. That's one way of doing it. Now, I want to explain a little bit how I add an extra layer, and here's the why behind it. I work in many different fields, different organizations, different leaders. Everyone processes information differently, and there's a lot of we're receiving information constantly. So my goal is to make my clients, the participants in my meeting, life easier. How do we make life easier? We add a few touch points. Okay, so go back to my meeting invitation. 2 weeks prior, I would say, let's take another example. 2 weeks prior, I'm facilitating a strategic meeting for this board. Okay, I have everyone. I sent the meeting invite, agenda to follow. Now, a few days like after I sent the meeting invite and I see people are accepting, because I need so many other people to accept, I might send like another like little touch point, and I say, see the agenda attached below, and then I might highlight the important things that we're going to cover, or maybe add names to things that I need from people or decisions when we're going to make. But that one-page agenda will then be, let's say, 7 to 10 days prior in the email, just in case. So maybe someone wants to review it and add to it, depending on what type of meeting you're having. That gives people time to process. Now, if you're like, I don't have time a week before, you can do it, let's say, 3 or 4 days before. Because here's then what I do. Let's say a week before I send out the meeting invite with that agenda, then 2 days before to 1 day, depending on meeting time, importance, all that stuff, right? I send an email follow-up talking about the upcoming meeting. So it would be kind of an overview. As a facilitator, it's a little different, but just steal my stuff, okay? I'd say like, hi team, I look forward to our session on communication and strategic teamwork, or strategic goal setting, however you want to frame it, whatever you're doing, that topic, right? What I just explained should be what's in the title for the meeting. And then you would say like, we will be covering the following. I like to bullet point 2-3 things and say my goal in this meeting is to create opportunities for discussion and additionally get action items in place to like set our goals for the upcoming, like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. So you see where I'm going. So first, what is the meeting about? Matches the title. 2 or 3 goals of what you're going to do, what your desired outcomes are, and then which follows kind of the agenda, but you're giving a little more like softer, like we're talking, this is like a more personal email. And then it explains what you want to get out of it. And then sometimes, because if people don't know me, because I'm a facilitator and they hire me to do their meetings, then I would put my bio, a quick tutorial about me, anything they need. But I do not put that up front because some people do not care. I put it at the bottom. If you're the first time working with me, attached is my bio, request me on LinkedIn. Here's a short video intro of myself. Now, if you're new to the team or there's certain things that you want to share that are important or highlight, regardless, sometimes videos just like this, make them a lot shorter, 1 to 2 minutes, is a great way to create engagement because it's easy for someone to click on a video than read a 2-page document about something. Now, those are just tips and tricks. Use them if they're helpful. But what I want to get to is the meeting invite, the agenda's there. Then in that email, you're reattaching the agenda and explaining kind of like what it is. So if you want to steal this, I love it. Sometimes with my clients, what I do is like I pull up like my screen and I walk them through the agenda of what we're going to cover. So then as they read the agenda, they're like, oh, okay, so this makes sense. Because what I might think of certain terms or like concepts, it could be different to them. So that kind of clears the air. Then I send out the email. Now, I'm set. That's my pre-work. My last thing I want to do before I actually like run into the meeting, and I know some of you might be like, I'm not doing that. I actually visualize while I'm looking at the agenda, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do this, bringing this topic up, what are some resistance, some challenges, how people might feel about certain things, right? So I actually do a walkthrough of my agenda prior to my meeting. I do it as a facilitator. We do that for our trainings all the time. But even if it's just a meeting, if it's a meeting like with a new client or like my boss, because I'm a professor, I still create an agenda and walk through it so I don't forget anything. Because once your brain kind of walks through it and visualizes the meaning, it can plan better and like address situations. And honestly, with all the things that how fast our brain works, because you walk through it, maybe something is about to happen, like, I don't know, Bill and like Larry are getting a little upset about something, and you can kind of hear it, you're talking about something else. Well, your brain's going to pick up on that and they'll be like, okay, we're facing some resistance challenges. Let's loop this strategy in. So it's really helpful to do that whole dry run. I recommend it every single time. Okay, so you did the dry run right before the meeting. Now you enter the meeting. So, important thing. In your meeting invite, you need to be clear if it's in person, Teams, or Zoom, and add in the link if it's Zoom, or Teams, depending on what platform you have, because sometimes people like don't know where to find the link and then they show up late to your meeting and that impacts you. Now, additionally, as I backtrack, in that email, you would put the link to the meeting if it's a platform you're using. Now, if it's in person, just put the room location, and sometimes I even put a map of where they need to go, okay? Make it easy, make it simple, because then you start on time. Okay, meeting starts. What I do as like a meeting facilitator, I'd be like, I introduce myself, I welcome everyone, I use people's names. If it's a group that don't meet often, I have name tags, okay? Now on Zoom, it's a little different. In Teams, we see each other's names. I also make sure that people are aware that they need to have the right name on their screen so that I don't have like Hot Potato 3 when it should be like, I don't know, James. That's really critical. And I do set expectations on my email. As a facilitator, it's my first time working with this group, I explain what my expectations are. I expect in every meeting, if my camera is on, everyone's camera is on. And unless there's a reason for not having their camera on or they have to step away, because if not, it's hard to gauge it's hard to engage the engagement level. And additionally, like, you don't know if it's like, you don't know who you're talking to, and talking into a void is really demotivating. So I have expectations in that email. Hey, everybody, we'll have a Zoom meeting. I'd love to see everyone's faces. It really helps to create engagement and make sure we're all on the same page. And it's something that I would really find, I could say, helpful, build culture of the team, like however you want to frame it. But explain here why the cameras need to be on. And for me, basically, I don't want to talk in a black void. I'm not here to lecture. I'm here to run a meeting. Now, if you're in person, so I would have name tags in case people forget their names, or like table tents, because it's really embarrassing. Let's say the CFO forgot someone's name, and they've worked with them a few times, and now their face that they're like, oh, I'm sorry. That person is going to feel like I'm not important, and also the CFO is going to feel bad that he just forgot the name. But honestly, at the point in my life, sometimes I forget my dog's name. So get table tents, get name tags so that you just avoid that. Now everyone's coming into the meeting. Let's do Zoom, Teams, and then we'll go to in-person. Okay, everyone comes in. Welcome everybody. I always say, we're going to get started on time. I just let everybody 2-3 minutes early. And they'll be like, grab a coffee, water, we'll get settled. I'll give you a 30-second heads up before we start, okay? Now, that's what I do on Zoom. In person, be like, we're going to start in about a minute. So if you want to make sure that your phones are on silent, that your notifications are like off so we don't get a lot of dings, bings, or buzzes during our meeting, that'd be really helpful so we can get out of here on time. Here's the element. To get out of here on time. People, that's a motivator. They will be like, yeah, I'll shut everything off, okay? Now, next. If you don't want computers at meetings because you're in person and you don't, like, I laugh because sometimes if I think that a meeting should have been an email and during that meeting, sometimes I'm doing other work and it's not okay. And we won't tell anybody I do this. But if I don't have an agenda and I don't know why I'm there, it's like, I got a lot of stuff to do, so I'm going to go do the thing. Not ideal. And I'm telling you this because I'm being really authentic and genuine, that you need to be clear in that meeting if you want computers on or off. If it's a brainstorming session, you can just take paper. Wow. And a pen. and take notes. You can actually voice record during the meeting with the permission, and then you just throw that in ChatGPT, and then you got your meeting recap. However you want to do it, you have to be clear so that no one is confused. If you call someone out for using their computer, call someone out for being on their phone. So what does that mean? Put that? Expectations. As you start the meeting, for example, hi, my name is Kortney Peagram. I'm your facilitator for today. Did everyone receive the agenda? Thank you. Before we get started, I just want to go through some logistics. If you need to use the restroom or get a call because there's an emergency, please, no problem. You can exit the room. You can take the call outside, and then if it's a new space, no one knows, just explain where the bathrooms are, where anything is that would be important to them. Now, sometimes in decisions, we can't leave the room, and that is very important to explain until the decision is made, so people don't step out when they're not supposed to. That's called expectations. That's what you want to clear the air before. Now, I additionally say, hey, if we're in person, I would really appreciate if we could put our phones away or turn them around just for certain parts of the meeting, and I will let you know when we have a 2-3 minute break so you can check your phone, because we're all very busy. And I want to make sure that I'm managing our time and then I'm moving everything according to plan as we continue with this meeting. Expectations. Then I say, I will let you know when we are moving on to different subjects. I will use transition statements to wrap things up. And then I give them examples. So as a facilitator, I'd be like, if we hit our time on this action item, I'll say, okay, so let's start wrapping this up. We have 1 more minute. I'd like to hear 1 or 2 more closing statements, and that's it. And if we're over time, I'll be like, we have no longer time for this item. We're going to put it on the board, and I will create questions follow-up so that the next meeting we can address this. So if you're managing that meeting, you have to be a time, like a time clock, or I don't know. I'm going to find a label for that. Not a time machine, like time checker. Let's just call it a time checker, okay? You have to be critical on that, because every minute that you go over, it pushes everything back, and that's how you end up late. So that's why doing that dry run, you can be like, oh, that's going to take a lot more long time. Okay, so do the expectations or ground rules as you start your meeting. Lastly, when you do the ground rules, you want to talk about phone usage, you want to talk about side conversations, you want to talk about interruptions, interrupting each other, and conflict. Now, for ground rules, what I would recommend when it comes to interrupting each other, so have a rule of thumb, once you can kind of get apology, here's what I do. This might be a heated discussion right now. So if we have the urge to interrupt, let's try to withhold ourselves. But if by accident it happens, I would appreciate an apology towards that person, because we don't want to be rude and disrespectful. And I explain the why. When you interrupt someone, you're derailing their thoughts. And so then they have to come back to what they're saying. And you don't know if they were going to get to the point or they're going to say what you're going to ask. So that's why sometimes waiting till the end of the person's statement or thing to ask something, you can get the answer before. So I talk about interruption. Now I say, I will call you out if I see you're constantly interrupting. And I say, what would be the best way for me to do that? Sometimes I ask the people permission of how I'm going to redirect them, because I want to show them respect. We're all adults. I don't want to be like, Larry, sit down or stop talking. That is rude, okay? And that's not the job of a facilitator. Now, you might say, okay, so Larry, I'm going to stop you here. And I would appreciate that we just let Tanya finish, and then you can ask your question or add your follow-up. I see there's value in what you're saying. We just want to finish this. That's a way. So a meeting facilitator needs to be skilled at transition statements, at interruptions, and at redirection. And it's good to call out people. Let me redirect that. It is important to call out people on their behavior, but a call out doesn't mean I need to shame, embarrass, or take your power away. It could be at the end of the meeting, hey, Bob, I know this was a really heated conversation for you, and I was just kind of checking, and you interrupted 7 times. The issue is it was always interrupting Brooke. And so as she's new to this company, this could impact how she feels valued. So what are some things we can do, Bob, so that we can help you? Do you want the floor first? Do you want to close out? How can I support you? That's a strategy. Now, if it gets really heated and there's conflict, you have to have a safe word. Okay. And you're like, oh, there goes a psychologist. The safe word is just that everyone understands that when someone uses that word, we need to just all take a breath. We need to just chill, step away, because we're not going anywhere. Emotions are rising up, and it's ineffective at that point. So some of my safe words are like, let's table that. I'm going to put a hard stop here, or we are going to pause here and take a 1-minute break for our phones, right? That's a way to kind of have that safe word. So but you have to be clear. You can't just be like, when I say banana, it's because it's heated. Like, that's not helpful. It has to be not only a word, but then there's an action to move forward. When I say, okay, we're going to table this, everyone, we just drop it. We take a breath, take a minute break, and we come back. And then you as a facilitator have to be like a minute bringing everyone back. Now, so those are just, there's so many different situations, and I can go on forever of like different strategies. I'm giving you high level, like, to do this. So to recap, even though I went into these details of each expectation, you want to set the expectations. You want to have an expectation on phone usage, on note taking, on interruptions, on time management, on conflict. Then on next steps, on accountability, who's doing what. How do we turn a task list into an action item? So you might have 5 to 7 ground rules or expectations. You need to set them before you do anything, before an icebreaker, before like, okay. Now, expectations, typically, for me, it takes 2 to 5 minutes. That is it. This is not a social contract we're developing here. Like, we don't need all votes in hand. We just need to be clear on how we're running this meeting. Now, after that, you want to do a quick icebreaker. If you decide to do 2 truths and a lie during a meeting and it's not a team building, I will find you. Why? It is a waste of space, because by the time everybody does the round robins, or if you do it as a large group, you just lost between 10 and 20 minutes. Do you know how much money that is? That's a lot of money. So you can do, okay, since we're a larger group today, I'd like you to turn to your partners to the left and right, introduce yourself, and you're going to share, I love this, fab. Your favorite food, activity you like to do that's not work related, and the most beautiful place you've been, FAB. So everyone, you have 2 minutes, go be fabulous, okay? Play on words, it's really easy to remember. People love to talk about food, activities they do outside of work, right? If it's a walk, if it's traveling, if it's whatever, cooking, right? Gardening, and beautiful places. Everyone likes to talk about what they see as beautiful. It could be a park, it could be your kitchen, it could be Greece, you name it, okay? Now the fab activity, please steal it, because it takes 1 to 3 minutes to get through, and you turn to your left, to your right if you're in person. Now if you're in Zoom, what you can do is you just throw people in different breakout rooms. You give 2-3 minutes, go be fabulous, okay? And sometimes I put it on my slides, what is fab the activity? Sometimes I don't even have to do it. Why do you want something that simple? Icebreakers are simple, easy. If they're too complicated, they're team building activities, okay? We did the icebreaker, and now we're still on the agenda. So this just set you up for a smooth entry to the harder topics. Now, after the icebreaker, you're like, let's go back to the agenda. Our goal at the end of this session is to do this, this, and this. Why? You're going to explain your why. Why are we here? Why is who in the room, and why is it important that we make decisions? That why is critical. The who in the room is also important. Like, if you didn't do large introductions, maybe someone doesn't know that, like, Allie's the director of training and development, and no one introduced her, and she's just sitting there, and she has an important decision. So I would either have it on the table tents, or do, if the meeting is small enough. So under 12 people, you can do a large group, like intro, name, title, and then why you're here. Now, if you do the why you're here, make sure they're clear that they know why they're here, and they don't say, well, I don't know why I'm here, because that takes your credibility away. So you could have it on the agenda. You could have mentioned it. But I always like to say, why am I here? Well, I'm here because I'm bringing this to the table. Now, this is another type of meeting, but if everyone's coming to meet to give updates, then that's why they would be there. So, quick recap. You've got your agenda. You've got who's who in the meeting. You sent the email. Then you got everybody there, right? Everyone's on time. You greeted them. You have name tags. You're set. Okay, boom. You have your expectations. You did your icebreaker, and then you start, okay? This is why we're here. Who's who in the room. This is what we want to get out. And then you say, I'm going to be managing the time for the rest of the meeting. If we're about to hit our end of discussion and we're running out of time, I will remind you 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes prior, so we can wrap up discussions, and then I will transition to the next topic. So as you facilitate that, you make sure that you're think about you as you're going through titles, subtitles, they're doing the narrative, and then you're moving on. You have to be extremely structured and actively listen during that meeting so that you are in control of what's going on and you can address situations. Now, the last thing I want to say, because there's so much I can do on meeting facilitation, is for the notes. For note taking, as a facilitator, it's very difficult if you're facilitating the meeting, managing time, managing people, managing emotions. So you might assign a note taker. I mean, nowadays we have AI, or you can record however you choose, but make sure that you have a note taker so that it's not on you, because it's hard to actively listen, take notes, and then manage a meeting. Just my 2 cents. Anyway, as I wrap up this how to run a successful meeting, these are the tips to start you. Now, you're like, well, great, we went through many things, but how do I close? Great question. Just as I'm closing here. You start to recap everything that you discussed. You add names to who's who and what's next for them. Larry, thank you for that update. We'll see those reports on next meeting. Tanya, you'll have the event secured, and then you're going to work with marketing on the flyers. Thank you very much. So you're doing that. So all action items from your meeting, and then you're tying a name to it so everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. And then you close. I want to thank everybody for being here today. We have 2 minutes left before the end of the meeting. If there's no further questions, I just want to say we've accomplished a lot today, and I look forward to talking to you again. I'll send a follow-up email with our meeting notes, and everybody have a great day. That is super simple, okay? Now, if you're 5 minutes before the end of the meeting, or 10, you can open up for Q&A. If you're 2 minutes before the end of the meeting, you'll say, I will stay online, or I'll stay in the meeting if you have additional questions, but due to having just a few minutes left, I don't want people to run late for their next meeting, so we are good to go. And then if people have questions, they can ask you, and then you can put it back in a forum or an email if needed. So I just gave you a mini crash course on how to set up a meeting for success, how to run it, and how to close it. I hope this is helpful. Now, if you're like, this is helpful, please subscribe to my channel, as I do this frequently on professionalism, on personal development. I am all things developing people skills, because you know what? We do this together. Every time I do a video, every time I set myself up, I have to learn the skill. I also have to do the skill, practice the skill, and I have to improve the skill. So if you're like, well, this is great, thank you. Subscribe, join, ask me a question, follow me on any platform at The Ordinary Professor, and send me your feedback. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.